to Furry Professor Akira. But why am I the Furry Professor Akira? Well, it's because it's part of Akira's personality and her fursona. And that's what I want to talk about today, is fursonas and creating, the cool attributes that make these characters who they are. So for me, using me as an example, my fursona for Akira is a cat-bat hybrid, or kitty bat. And the way that I have her personality set up is she loves to teach people stuff, and that's what I do here. And the name kind of just came because it was a cute little attribute to add to her fursona. Now, let's say you want to create a fursona. How the heck do you do that, and where the heck do you start? Well, it depends. Because for me, I created Akira because I had acquired her in a trade. I had another fursuit, I traded for her, so her design is not my own. I made the character my own, I changed her name, and I created this whole fursona around her based on what I wanted her to be. That's only one way to create a fursona. However, what if you want to make one from scratch? Well, the way I feel like is a very easy sort of way to create characters in the furry fandom is to look at it like you're trying to create a character for a story. I use this as an analogy because I'm a creative writer outside of being a fursuiter, so I look at this through a creative writing perspective. And I feel like it could be a very helpful way for you in order to create a fursona. So, where do you start? Well, you can kind of start anywhere. There have been times that I have heard people say they created this name for a fursona, but they had no idea what species they wanted, how they wanted the character to be, and guess what? That's perfectly fine. So, the way I like to look at it is, what exactly do you want this character to do? Because when you create characters in a story, these characters, have a purpose. What is your fursona's purpose? Are they going to represent you? Are they going to represent someone you wish you could be? It's very much up to you. So, what I like to say is, what are they achieving? What is this character achieving? And for Akira specifically, when I acquired her, I wanted her to represent who I want to be. I wanted to be someone who teaches others useful skills in whatever I was an expertise at. So I created the Furry Professor, and here we are now. But what about, the person who has no idea where to start? Well, that's kind of the fun part. So what a lot of people like to do is maybe they pick their favorite animal and then they create a fursona based on that. They add their favorite colors, maybe they come up with some silly name and go from there. That is a great way to start. There is no rules in terms of you have to do this way in order to have a fursona. That's the cool thing about creating fursonas, is there's so much options and diversity to it that you can do anything you want. Creating personality is a whole other aspect. You don't have to, create, like I did, the whole Furry Professor thing. You don't have to do all that. You could just be this silly little character doing silly little things. It's just, for me, fun to have my character have a bigger purpose than just being, alive. But what I like to do is kind of start with the basics. If you are completely unsure where you want to go with your fursona, what are your favorite things? And go from there. There have been fursuits inspired by food. I have seen sushi. I've seen sushi characters, and they're really adorable, that they created into dragons and wolves, and it's limitless. It's really limitless. And the fun part is, maybe you don't have, a creative bone in your body, and there is nothing wrong with that, and there's no shame. You can always scroll around on the dealer's den, find a suit that you really like, and create a character based off something that already exists. That's what I did. I will say, all the fursuits that I have, I didn't create them. I acquired them and then created their character after I had already gotten them. So it really is limitless. But I always try to tell people it's not very, there are rules or whatever. It is very open. There are closed species, which that's a whole thing that I can go into a huge other video about, but for beginners' sake, it's very open and very limitless. You can create a fursona based off anything you want. Your interests, what you want to be, what you want to aspire to be. Maybe it was an imaginary, friend that you used to have and you want to make them real. Whatever the case may be, it is entirely up to you. You can create whatever you want. That's the amazing thing about the furry fandom, is showcasing creativity. And then you have makers like me, who I just like to share, how others could become furries or whatever. It's fun. So if you ever have any questions, always ask. I'm always happy to help any way that I can, especially with a lot of the furry stuff. It can get confusing sometimes, so ask away. I'm always here to help. Okay? Okay.